On the 26th of November of this year, tractors rolled into London to protest a range of issues, but at the forefront was the government's recent IHT proposals. Our very own director, Greg Goulding, was there from the very beginning of the day, and we're here to hear his views on what happened. So, Greg, do you want to tell us a little bit about the day and the lead up and your views on everything that happened?
Well, I'll keep to the point, whether you agree with what was happening or not, that's sort of by the by, but I'll just tell you about the actual event on the day. So it started off actually for us the day before, went down to London the night before because we're quite far away, and went down to Parliament Square and Whitehall to see what was happening, and I looked rather out of place in my dealer boots, muddy jeans and my gilet, and then everyone else in very sharp suits. But there were a few farmer types walking around, I could tell. But the first thing I noticed was they were taking away all the balustrades to stop the public getting too close to all the statues and things. Mm-hmm. I thought, what's going on here? And we then heard very quickly that their protest was cancelled by the Met Police, mm-hmm. which no one knew really why. It's all a bit last minute, and I know a lot of farmers had planned take their tractors down there. They had already got low loaders with machinery on it. So it's all a bit last minute to cancel it the night before. But the police made it very clear, do not come to Whitehall.
Did you hear anything on the day from the police or subsequently about why that change was made? Or was it ever just left?
Bits and pieces. So I'll talk a bit more about the police sort of later on. But I did hear bits and pieces. And I think overall it was cancelled because obviously Whitehall, which is the main road where Downing Street is off, was the road that the farmers were going to block, which they did in previous rallies. Yeah. But because it's the day of the budget, whether you want to hear what she's going to say or not, they do need access in and out of Downing Street. Yeah. And I think they were worried on security risk that if you've got 500 tractors blocking Whitehall while doing the budget, it might not go down very well. So I kind of get it. However, it was always planned for months in advance on the same day as the budget. Mm-hmm. So, it shouldn't have been cancelled on the 11th hour, but it was. No, yeah. And I've got to say, and I'll talk more about the police later on, how good they were. Mm-hmm. And a few police said off the record, they said, my camera's off, but we agree with it. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, they're to do it there. Yeah. They are there to do a job, and they have to do their job. They've got to uphold the law. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the night before, they released a statement saying, do not come to London. Mm-hmm. One of our colleagues actually found a little bit of a loophole saying that while you can't take machinery there, you can take small livestock, which we sort of launched as a bit of a joke. Yeah. Obviously, we didn't want any livestock injured or even traumatised. But we
sorry, the cancellation of they didn't cancel the protest, did they? Wasn't it that machinery couldn't come into a specific area?
So the original protest was planned that Whitehall would be closed to general traffic, but farm machinery can be placed there like it was in previous protests, and so it would be closed to public effectively, but there'd be a peaceful agricultural demonstration along that rather big road, but because they were then keeping that road clear, there was no room for any other machinery. And quite rightly, the police and the other authorities want to keep London moving. And so they said, do not bring your tractors or farm machinery to London, but come on foot.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So that was
what was said,
the official outcome of that. So, bit disheartened, staying in London anyway. And in the morning, I'm a bit of an early riser, and I just got up and went down to Whitehall to see what was happening. I was there, it's still pitch black, dark, there's nothing.
Did you expect to see anything?
I'd hoped to see something. I know farmers are pretty stubborn, just in a nice way. But I think there's a lot of people that are still coming. Yeah. And we posted on social media and had a lot of people saying, we're still coming. Yeah. But at that point, I hadn't seen any activity. But I was walking around and then went into the Parliament, and in the distance I heard that unmistakable air horn noise. And I thought, okay, it's happening.
Something's coming.
Yeah. And then went back to Downing Street, sort of trying to hover around, see what's happening. and there was a bright, shining beacon of a JCB fast track.
Right.
And so the first farmer was on scene, and he had a really nice. We got the photo of it on social media, and
We'll
quite
put it up
proud.
on the video.
Yeah, we're really proud. I was the first journalist on scene, and for quite a while, it was just me and a farmer.
No police?
No police. And on the front of the JCB was this really nice message about being the naughty list, and it did make me laugh. But we were there for quite a while, just standing around, and a bit like, what do we do?
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah.
What next?
And then, sooner or later, an unmarked police car turned up, and they basically said, "You can't be here."
Mm-hmm.
And there was a bit of delaying going on, but yeah, to be fair to them, they had a bit of paper, and they said, by order of the court or wherever it came from, you cannot be here. And they said the rules are clear. If you do not move your tractor, you will be arrested, and your tractor will be impounded. And we delayed it as long as possible, but eventually, unfortunately, the tractor had to go. But they were really good at saying, look, you can't be on this road, but if you're over there, just FYI.
This bit of paper only applies here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it then turned out there's quite a few tractors already parked outside the Farmers Club,
Okay.
which is literally just off Whitehall.
So do you think they'd been arriving whilst this was going
They
on?
had been arriving, and I think if I hope Lloyd doesn't mind me saying that he was trying to get them to turn up, thinking if another 20 tractors turn up, the police suddenly is a bit.
Yeah.
What can we do about this?
Yeah.
Outnumber them, but no one else turned up,
Yeah.
and I think actually that was the right thing to do, because ultimately, while we are, say, supportive of this protest, we've got to be in the lines of the law. We've got to behave. It's peaceful. It's friendly. We are trying to get a message across, or the farmers are trying to get their message across to the wider public and to the government.
Yeah.
Without breaking any rules.
And in a way which the public view them favourably as well, right? I think
Absolutely.
that's important, yeah.
It's a fine line, and we've seen it across social media with, like on that Monday, there's a protest in Suffolk, just down the road from here, where the farmers went between Ipswich and Felixstowe, the A14. It's the main hub, and it's really what you'd love to do, block the A14, really cause a big problem.
Massive disruption, yeah.
But the public would be quite annoyed.
Yeah.
So they actually did it between, I think it's 10 and 4 to miss the main rush hour, and that route is mostly holding up containers, lorries holding containers.
And it wasn't a blockage, it was a go slow.
It was a go slow,
Right.
so it kept moving.
Yeah.
So it's very strict on that. It's just resistance rather than blocking, which is perfectly legal. Just got their message across, but without causing too much disruption to the general public.
Yeah.
But with London, going back to that, so actually what really helped, and I want to do a big sort of shout out to Ollie Harrison, who turned up just sort of 10 minutes after the police turned up, and he obviously knew what he's doing. He had a bag of coffees for the police, and once the tractors moved on, Ollie and I walked to the Farmers Club, and I was sort of saying to Ollie, do you know those police? He said, yeah, they're the police responsible for keeping Whitehall safe, effectively. If they need to shut it, they'll shut it. And he said they've been so good in the past with previous rallies that it's, the police they're not on anyone's side.
No.
But they've got their jobs to do.
Yeah.
But it's also about keeping people safe.
Yeah.
And actually they were really friendly and understood why we're there without having their own opinion on it.
Yeah.
And Ollie obviously he knows what he's doing about keeping them on side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually I met them a few times throughout the day, and they were all really, really helpful. But we went to the Farmers Club, and there's about 20 tractors there, all sort of lined up. And that's the first moment of the day I thought, something big's happening. This is really good.
Started to get a sense of the energy that was coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, we did a lot of social media, we did a lot of videos. You can't, well, you probably can get some of the sense, but that excitement, that energy that come through, and it was brilliant. I mean,
so how would you describe the mood throughout the day?
I think actually, given that the reason people are there, which is not necessarily positive,
No.
it was very positive.
Yeah.
There's a few people who are quite upset and maybe had issues with the policies that would be affecting them straight away.
Yeah.
But I think most people were there in their typical, carry on, keep farming spirit.
Yeah, yeah. Upset but in good spirits.
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah. But no, I think I was proud to be part of agriculture. I'm not a farmer, but involved in ag, and I was really proud to be part of it. And it's important. But yeah, so the Farmers Club, that was the first sense that I thought people had turned up. And then I was talking to a couple of farmers there, and they said there's a few people up at Trafalgar Square. So I thought, okay, I'll have a little wander up there. It was only literally the end of Whitehall, a 5-minute walk. And while walking up there, I'll add as well, more police. I mean, there was a lot of police. I don't know how many police were involved in the day, but they all said good morning. They're all friendly. And
yeah, I mean, since you've come back, generally, when we've been speaking about it, you said you were quite impressed with the way the police conducted themselves across the board, really, generally speaking.
I think the police, they get a bit of a bad rap overall, but I think really they did a fantastic job. I couldn't imagine being a high-ranking officer and wanting the officers to do any better than they actually did.
Yeah.
They're all friendly. They're all very professional. I know they did arrest a couple of farmers. I'm not sure it was really my place to get involved in whether that was right or not, because I still don't know the formal allegations.
Yeah.
So really got cast that aside. But even later in the day, there was a couple of police liaison officers in Trafalgar Square, and they were really nice. At one point, a lot of officers turned up, and this liaison chap sent them away because it is too much of a show of force. They can be there because it's a protest. It could get ugly very quickly, and of course the police are very worried about that, and they've got to make sure they are prepared for any of the worst circumstances. But it's a case of you wait over there. If you're needed, we'll let you know. But while this is a peaceful protest, we'll just have the bare minimum. And the liaison officers were really good, really professional, and I chatted to them for quite a while. They understood why we were there. Obviously, again, no opinion, but they got it.
Yeah.
And it's, the whole right to protest was very much well respected.
Yeah.
But going back to the morning, so then on Trafalgar Square, the roundabout just beneath it, and tractors are big. Even a small tractor is a big machine.
And they look extra big in London.
They do look very big. So going round, London, bad traffic at the best of times.
Yeah.
It didn't take long to cause a bit of a hold up.
Yeah.
And the air horns, I mean, at that point of the day, they were brilliant.
Yeah.
And they've all got different tunes. It was really quite...
Echoing off the buildings, yeah.
Quite something.
Yeah.
Then the tractor started parking on the roundabout. And then the roundabout was blocked. So the tractors on the roundabout couldn't get off. So they were fine. So it suddenly it's brought it all down to absolute gridlock. But what really surprised me was the London people, be it the bus drivers, construction workers, office workers, everybody was clapping.
Really?
They were absolutely everyone cheering.
Okay.
And you think you're probably causing them an absolute nightmare getting to work.
Yeah.
And people are probably getting pretty fed up. And there's a few delivery drivers you can see. I've got a list of people to get to today, probably targeted on it. But they got it.
So that's quite interesting, because that's not necessarily something you'd have got from the coverage, particularly from the national news outlets.
No.
There was support from the general public.
There absolutely
on the street.
There was support. I would say there was no one that I saw arguing against it.
No.
Although it's probably a brave thing to do when you've got lots of big tractors and burly farmers.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it was really a big, impressive support. And to be fair, I think you'd do well not to be taken back by the whole scene.
Yeah.
The atmosphere,
Yeah.
which hopefully came across in some of the videos. But it was really quite something.
Because you did your walk around video where
Yeah.
you walked through all of those tractors that were on
Yeah.
there. I mean, that gave you a sense of the kind of numbers.
So that was later on in the day.
Right.
So it actually quietened off. So basically, the police were doing their best to try to do your protest while keeping London moving.
Yeah.
And so eventually they managed to get a lot of the tractors off the roundabout and then park, I think it's like Pall Mall and Charing Cross, park there. As long as the roads were clear, sorry, as long as the roads are clear, you're fine. So they basically had, I think, 2 or 3 tractors either side of the road and then 1 or 2 lanes in the middle.
So there was still access.
Yeah,
But you couldn't ignore the tractors.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did a walk around video then where they're all parked up. And I actually, I watched a video again this morning to try and count how many tractors there were. I'd lost count. I didn't manage to get anywhere near all the tractors.
There was more than 10.
There was more than 10. I reckon, I don't want to be exaggerating too much, but it could have been 1,000 tractors.
Right, okay, yeah.
And speaking to a lot of the farmers, they came from all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the guy who came up from first was from Sussex, I believe, or Kent. I spoke to a farmer who came from Devon. Someone came from Cornwall.
Wide reach then.
A big reach. And you think the logistics of getting a tractor from Devon to London. I mean, if you drive the tractor, that's a long old way. But I think most of them got low-loaded to a farm on the outskirts and then driven the last few miles in. But no, a massive sense of amazement of, and I think this is the best tractor rally or tractor protest they've done.
Yeah.
I think actually banning them off Whitehall
Yeah.
was a good move.
As in what, for the publicity it generated?
For the publicity, because it was brilliant. And I mean, talk about publicity. So I was the only one from our business there, and we talked about it the day before, saying how many people do we send? Because it's the budget as well. We wanted to make sure we had people in the office ready to hear the budget live and report to our farming community about what this means for them.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of, do we send everybody to London, or do we have people in the office? So I went on my own, and it was one of those things. I thought, we'll see how we get on. And I've got a little channel, a company channel on my phone, taking the videos, taking the photos, sending them up. Didn't think much of it.
You're probably too busy anyway to be checking.
I was too
back
busy
anything, just sending stuff back.
Enjoying the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then checked the channel, basically said, are you receiving all the content okay? And I noticed a few comments from the colleagues saying, can more people help audit the comments? Now, I'll make it very clear, we're not auditing, but there was some rather aggressive racial abuse.
Some moderation was required.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you disagree with it, fine. But we can't allow any...
We have our guidelines, yeah.
Absolutely. We have to fit within those. I thought, but we've never had this problem before.
No.
So I actually got the stats here afterwards. Blimey.
I don't think I've heard these.
So from the day of the stuff I took on my mobile phone, we got 12 million views, 370,000 interactions, and 20,000 comments.
Wow.
Now, some of those comments were on little videos I did, little selfie videos. I was very nervous when I started doing this in the morning, because as soon as you hold the camera up there, you feel like an absolute lemon.
Yes.
And people start watching you.
Yeah.
And then you look at the video and you think, I've got a face for radio and a voice for text. But by the end of the day, I was just, I was properly getting into it, because I was really sort of drawn into the atmosphere of it. But we had over 1,000 comments on a video of myself, and I haven't actually read them all because I'm not sure I want to see them all. But I think the worst bit was scrolling through Facebook, on my own Facebook, a few days later, and seeing my face on other people's profiles. In fact, quite a right-wing page, which is a bit worried about.
Wrong kind of celebrity.
Absolutely. But I think, because we were the first journalists there, and I think I'm fair to say we covered it more than any other platform there.
Yeah.
That success is going to have people stealing our stuff. And I'm right in thinking that the Daily Mail and the BBC used our content, with permission, I'll add. But, for us, it's not about getting the credit, it's about getting the message out there.
Yeah, and I think those numbers really show the wider reach that this protest did have, because that's beyond our normal core audience, those kind of numbers. So this was something that was going out to the public as well, that they were seeing from us too. So it did carry that message wider than just the farming community, which I think is entirely what it was meant to do.
Absolutely did. In fact, I had a guy pop round, a contractor the weekend, and he had seen me. And I know him already, but we're not friends.
Yeah.
But he had said he'd seen me on social media.
Yeah.
And it's a bit weird because that's not my personality.
Yeah.
But there we go. But the important thing is getting that message out there.
Yes.
To the wider audience about what this really means. And I think if I can move on from talking about social media, I think it's really important that, we're not going to get too politically involved in whether it's right or wrong of what the government's doing or what the farmers are protesting against. I think it's fair to say there's lots of comments saying, you know, the typical one, I've never seen a poor farmer.
Yeah.
That is really quite untrue. There are absolutely, like with every profession, there are some very wealthy farmers out there, very wealthy, big landowners, and there are some smaller farmers that don't make a profit, if make a profit in the slightest.
I say make a loss a lot of the time, every year.
A lot of them do make
recently,
a loss.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been at Farmer's Guide for just over 10 years, and there have been some good farming years, but there's been a lot of bad farming years. And I think what's really important to show is it's not a case of these farmers just, you know, they're rich and they want to keep more, and people say pay your tax.
Yeah.
I don't think the farmers are against paying tax, or they're not against paying tax in the slightest. The problem is, and I actually spoke to a farmer, a family farm, I think they're 4th generation, and it's at the rally, and they were there because there's not going to be a 5th generation.
No.
They started off as their farm generations ago as a dairy farm, but as we know with the price of milk, that is now not viable.
No.
They're now doing, I think they did some longhorn and arable and a bit of diversification. But the lady was saying that on paper, they're very wealthy. They live in a very rather expensive area, and while they haven't got a big farm, I think about 100 acres, it's worth several million pounds.
Yeah.
So on paper, they are rich.
Yeah.
However, they're not.
No.
So the only way to get access to that cash is to sell that land. They sell any part of that land at 100 acres, that is no longer a viable farm.
No.
It's barely viable
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But if they're then taxed at whatever the value of that property is, you know, let's say it's 5 million, which sounds like an awful lot, but as building land, that is it's probably worth more than that potentially. Now they could just sell up. And in fact, I was interviewed by the BBC a couple of years ago, and they said, why don't farmers just sell up? And I said, well, that's not what they do.
No.
They are there. It's such a strong generational belief that they are farmers, they're providing food, that's a big service they're doing for the wider population, that they're not going to sell up.
No, and I think an argument that often gets made against, you know, well, that's contrary to kind of IHT is, well, we're going to be losing food security, and that's quite a technical argument, and it's true. But what often doesn't get, I think, enough mention is the cultural death that's associated with that. The small family farm. This is a huge part of, you know, our country's culture and society that is really feeling the heat from
absolutely
government policy.
Yeah. And I think where I live, I'm really rural, and Suffolk is a pretty rural county as it is. But in the villages I live in a village, and the surrounding villages, they've all got, you know, there's a farmer in each village, and these are pillars of the community. And I'm not just saying that, you know, a lot of people will say, you know, these footpaths need clearing, and they'll do it. The hedges need looking after. And yeah, they do get some money for looking after the hedges, but it's not a profit-making system. It just, it's there, they are looking after the countryside, the guardians of the countryside, if you like. So there's a big part of this, and if we were to sell up and just have new builds everywhere, then that would lose an awful lot more than just food security. But also, we're talking about, you know, the inheritance tax and these farmers not making any money. The problem is we've had decades of supermarkets. I'm not getting too political here, sorry, but decades of supermarkets pushing prices down, rejecting produce because it's not perfect. We do now at least have wonky veg, and I think Aldi have been really good at promoting British produce, that even if it's not perfect, it's still good quality. And also food, you know, I can't what the word is, but you know where it's come from. Transparency in your produce.
In the food chain,
In the food chain.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is as we have less and less food being available that's produced in the UK, and as we turn more into wildflowers and solar panels and set aside land, you know, that's all very good for the environment. Nothing wrong with that in the slightest. But that does mean the compromise is we're no longer producing our own food. But that food that's being brought in elsewhere does not need to reach the same level of requirements that we have to produce. It's a bit like talk about electric cars, that they're good for the environment. We're not getting to that now, but they are good at source. but the problem is it's moved elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about, you know, food growth and farming is bad for the environment,
Yeah.
it doesn't change it.
No.
It's just bad for the environment elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in fact, a lot worse, because at least here, everything has to reach very high standards.
Yes.
And I don't think actually as a country in the world that produces better food
No.
than the United Kingdom.
No, definitely.
And I'll stand by that.
Yeah.
But the point is, the farmers are saying it's not just inheritance tax. There is such little support from the government that are pushing British produce. And, you know, looking at America, and we're not going down the Trump route, but there's such big incentives for being self-sufficient in agriculture in America that we just don't have here. That loyalty to being, right, we're producing our own produce, good quality, you know where it comes from, low miles. But so the farmers they took to London because we are at a very big crossroads now, that if nothing happens, we are seriously in danger of losing a big part of our agriculture, and food prices will only rocket right up.
Yeah.
And that's not just an empty words. Our last podcast was about a big dealer in the west of the country that have gone bankrupt. Admittedly, there's maybe some bit of shady goings on.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
But there have been other closures since.
they have, and even these local successful dealers have closed branches, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the times these big machines that people say that farmers are turning up in their £200,000 tractor, well, they are.
Yeah.
But they don't own those machines.
No.
They are
Yeah.
leased.
Yeah.
And what's happening is they're saying, well, I would change it every 3 years,
Yeah.
and now changing every 4, 5 years. The dealer's making less money, and also these machines are financed. And I mean, a lot of our farmers, people who are not involved in agriculture, might not understand. Farmers often pre-sell their produce before it's even grown. So
Yeah.
sugar beet, for example, is sold well in advance. So, but they need to do it for cash flow. It's a bit like a payday loan, but you know, good for business because it lets you plan and structure your business properly. But ultimately, it is a way of getting cash back into the business because they are struggling.
Cash flow is always a problem.
It's always a
with
problem.
every farmer I speak to.
Yeah. And you know, sugar beet, I spoke to a farmer a couple of months ago, and he was saying that his grandfather was selling sugar beet from his farm for more money back 30 years ago than he's selling it for now. And the end product is a lot more expensive. So where's that money going?
Yeah.
But we're not getting into that now.
No.
I appreciate I'm just going off topic slightly. But the rally was a really impressive demonstration of British agriculture. And it's one of the few times you can actually sort of say that's British, you know, the way that everyone came together.
Did you feel proud?
Immensely proud.
Yeah.
And I would say all the farmers were really sensible. They were nice. They were calm. No one was aggressive. No one was difficult. There was one point where, when I think it was Pall Mall, when they had like a thin line of where traffic to get through, and then people were being quite aggressive. Now they weren't farmers.
No.
I want to call them professional protesters turned up, and they were just almost trying to cause fights. Not fights, but a bit more aggressiveness.
Looking for some drama.
They were looking for the drama, and I think apart from that, all the farmers were really good. And actually, the walk around I did, there was an ambulance trying to get through, and a lot of people probably would have cut that out because obviously it's bad publicity. But the farmers were very quick. No, everyone back up, and it got through pretty quickly. I think the farmers were really understanding that life has to carry on,
Yeah.
and
They were respectful of that.
absolutely. So it was an absolutely fantastic day. I'm a bit ashamed to have enjoyed it,
Yeah.
but I came back really on a high of we can make some difference. Admittedly, since the budget has come out, there not really much has changed.
No.
And I'm not sure much is going to change in the near future. But that's not really for us to get involved in.
No. Would there be anything that you'd like to point out in particular that you felt on the day that you don't think might have come across quite in the pictures, the videos, or the coverage? Is there anything from the day specifically that you experienced?
I think overall it's just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said at the beginning, I left my room early. I didn't check out. I was staying about 10 minutes away in some cheap hotel. I thought in the morning I'll go and see what's happening and then get something to eat and then check out later on. I then realised I hadn't checked out. I was so taken aback by the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that the air horns,
Yeah.
it was just constant. Admittedly, by about 4 o'clock, I was done with air horns. And I had a bit of tinnitus. But I was so swept up in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think, the passion from all the signs on the front of the tractors, there's some brilliant signs, and I'm sure we'll put some up on the screen now, but they're not just back British farming.
No.
Well, that's very important. It's proper messages from farmers, and
They have meaning behind them.
absolutely. And one guy, I loved his humour. I interviewed him on our social media, and he said, I gave my leg for farming, and he literally gave his leg. So
At least he can laugh about it.
he did, yeah. So no, and he was brilliant. It was that kind of those attitudes of people that just made the day so meaningful. And I literally came back. I thought, how can anyone in the government not take this seriously?
Not pay attention to this, yeah.
I mean, I know there's lots of protesters going on, whether you believe it or not, or agree with it, for all sorts of different things, be it, oil use or whatever. But this one is so meaningful.
Yeah.
And I've never seen as much come together as possible as they have done then. So it was real big showing of agriculture. And I think even the French would be proud.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think, is there anything else you'd like to say about the day? Or
I think that was it. And I think, no, that's everything. And I think there are more protests planned. But of course, if you are involved in a protest or anything like that, make sure you do adhere by the law. I think it's very important. Let's not annoy the general public.
No, yeah.
We want them on our side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's important we have them on our side. So peaceful, fair protests that get our point across to the government without doing too much damage.
Okay. Thank you for listening to this Farmer's Guide podcast. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to stay tuned for more coverage of the budget.